the storytelling means for us, and we always know what's happening. We act, we play, we dance, we sing from 9 to 10 on Saturday morning. Youth on the go. Whoa, let's start the show. Youth on the go. Whoa, let's start the show. Let's go.
TDC Financial Services. We're here for you to help you make your dreams come true. Whether your needs are big or small, we'll support you with them all. TDC Financial Services. We are strong. TDC Financial Services. This is where you belong.
TDC Financial Services, where money is made easy.
Good morning to all of our radio listeners, our viewers via Von Radio's Facebook page and YouTube channel, and welcome to this edition of Youth on the Go here on Von Radio. I am Zahnela Claxton from the Department of Education, and we're here with you on Saturdays to share important information, updates. It's been a whirlwind of a month. Of course, we know this month is Child Month, and so we had several activities around the Child Month. We also know that today is the last Saturday of the month, and so we will see some very special guests. It's our Disaster Awareness Saturday, and so we'll have some very special guests in the studio with us this morning. However, before we get to that point, for those who missed it, cricket is back. We have our cricket tournament currently happening. We saw a few cricket matches during the course of this week. A primary school cricket tournament, which is sponsored by TDC. It is the Wanaco Morton Primary Schools tournament, and we have our primary schools participating. It will run it started on June 21st. It will run until July 8th. And so we have had several matches already. We've had VOJN versus Ivor Walters. Where we saw VOJN emerging as the winner. We saw JLPS versus Charleston Primary, and we saw Charleston Primary emerging winner. We saw JLPS versus VOJN. VOJN emerged winner, and we also saw Ivor Walters versus Charleston Primary. Charleston Primary emerged winner. And so we are at a point now where we will look forward to Monday. We will see Charleston Primary versus St. Thomas's Primary at the ETW Park at 3 p.m. on Monday. On Wednesday, we will see Joycelyn Liebert versus St. Thomas's Primary at the VOJN Primary School field. We also will see on Thursday St. Thomas's Primary versus Ivor Walters Primary at the ETW Park, and that's at 10 a.m. We'll see on Friday, June 30th, Ivor Walters Primary versus Joycelyn Liebert Primary at 1 p.m. and then CPS versus VOJN at 3 p.m. and then we'll have the final one on the 3rd of June. Semifinals. The last game on the 3rd of June from St. Thomas's Primary versus VOJN Primary at 1 p.m. The finals will be announced, and of course that will take place at the ETW Park. So we look forward to a wonderful series. We know that it has been about a 3-year hiatus. We haven't had cricket for a bit, and so most of our players were very young the last time we had this tournament, but they are doing an exceptional job, and I want to say kudos to all the children for coming forward. Remember, cricket is a part of who we are, and so kudos to all of you, all of the students, their coaches, and the various community members who have come forward to support our students. Additionally, we had our Early Childhood Workers Retreat yesterday. It was a fun day. It was awesome for all of our early childhood staff members, from the daycares and nurseries to the preschools, and they had a wonderful time, and we want to continue to thank them as we close out Child Month. We want to continue to thank all of our persons who are contributing to the development of our youngest group of students. They work that is done at those levels should not go unnoticed. We know how much fun we had for the past few weeks with our preschoolers in studio. Can you imagine what it's like having a whole group of them in one space? It's definitely a time when we have to have our highest level of energy, and so we thank the early childhood employees and various workers for doing an exceptional job in laying a foundation. Without you, it would be even more difficult for all of the rest of us to support our students throughout the course of their academic and holistic journey. Also coming up soon, very soon, as in this coming week, we have our graduation ceremonies. So graduations start this week, and I'll run you through the schedule quickly so that you have a general idea of what is expected. On June 27th, that's on Tuesday, we will see the Charlestown Preschool and Nevis Academy. Charlestown Preschool will have their ceremony at the Shiloh Baptist Church at 9 a.m. and the Nevis Academy would have theirs at NEPAC at 4 p.m. On the 28th, St. John's Preschool, United Pentecostal Church, 10 a.m. Ines France Preschool, Jessup's New Testament Church at 4 p.m. The 29th, we'll see Gingerland Preschool at the Gingerland Methodist Church at 9:30 a.m. We see the Charlestown Primary School at 10 a.m. at NEPAC, and Commonia Preschool at 4 p.m. at the Franklin Brown Community Center. Elizabeth Pemberton Primary will have their ceremony on the 3rd of July at 10 a.m. at NEPAC, and Mudcross Preparatory at 4 p.m. at NEPAC on July 3rd. On July 4th, St. Thomas's Primary at 10 a.m. at NEPAC, Joycelyn Library Primary on the 5th at 10 a.m. at NEPAC, and Cicely Brown Integrated at 4 p.m. On July 6th, St. James Primary at 9:30 a.m., followed by Ivor Walters Primary at 4 o'clock p.m. And then we'll close out the graduation season with the VOJN Primary having their ceremony at 9:30 a.m. at NEPAC, and Montessori Academy at 4 p.m. also at NEPAC. And so we want to encourage everyone to support our students. We will have live broadcasting and coverage from Nevis Television 8 as well as Vaughan Radio, so you can tune in and follow us and of course support our students. Congratulations in advance to all the students who will be graduating and transitioning to the next level of their academic journey. All right, and so those are the activities that which will directly impact most persons, but it would be remiss of me if I didn't also mention that our prospective teachers course starts on Monday. So Monday, persons who are interested and who have applied to the teaching profession will start their 2-week training program. And of course, we know at the end of each school year there are some teachers who transition to various things in their lives. Some of them will be going to university, some will be transitioning into retirement, some will be pursuing various other career paths, some will be pursuing the associate's degree at the Teachers Training College, and all of them, of course, we wish them the best, but they also make room for potential new teachers. And so this course gives us an opportunity to interact with persons who are interested and also to do the various interviews and then of course the subsequent placements. So we will have that activity happening. It starts on Monday and it will also go until July 7th. So some of your students, you'll see some of them at your schools later this week. They'll visit with you, and of course the community, you'll see various news items around the course, and we thank you for your continued support. And of course we know that we are working assiduously to try to provide the best placement and the best opportunities for our students. As just before we break, I also want to remind you that the NIAA has several scholarships open right now. I will not be able to go through all of them this morning with you, but there are several scholarships open right now, and so you can go to NIA-HR scholarships. That's a Facebook page, and you'll be able to track all of those scholarships, the Mexican scholarship, the Moroccan scholarship, and some other scholarships are there, the NIA MUA scholarship. Those are there, so please go and apply, because of course if you don't have to pay for your university degree, it will put you in a better position. We'll take a short break. When we come back, of course, as I said, it's Disaster Awareness Saturday, so we will meet our ambassadors.
From Queen City, Nevis, this is the powerhouse of the Eastern Caribbean, Vaughn Radio.
It's time, come on, rise and shine. You know, I know we're gonna have a great time. And now it passes quickly, you don't wanna miss it. So turn up the radio, it's you on the go. You on the go. Oh, let's start the show. Oh, you on the go. Oh, let's start the show. Let's go. I will learn new things. I will be creative. Grab your gears, let's gather around, and adventure is always waiting. The storytelling needs for us, and we always know what's happening. We act, we play, we dance, we sing from 9 to 10 on Saturday morning. Youth on the go. Whoa, let's start the show. Youth on the go. Let's start the show. Let's go.
TDC Financial Services, we're here for you to help you make your dreams come true. Whether your needs are big or small, we'll support you with them all. TDC Financial Services, we are strong. TDC Financial Services, this is where you belong.
TDC Financial Services, where money is made easy.
Good morning to all of our radio listeners, our viewers via Vaughn Radio's Facebook page and YouTube channel, and welcome to this edition of Youth on the Go here on Vaughn Radio. It is, of course, an exciting month for us, and it's an exciting day because it is the last Saturday of the month, which means we have our disaster ambassadors in studio. Can you guess who? Do you have a clue? Well, if you can't guess, we have an opportunity for them to introduce themselves, so I'll let you know, or they'll let you know who they are, the school they represent, and of course the disaster they will be sharing about today.
Good morning. My name is Brianna Beverly from the Ivor Waters Primary School, a grade 6 student. I am a hurricane ambassador.
Awesome.
Good morning. My name is Zaya Jeffers of the Ivor Waters Primary School, and I am a hurricane ambassador.
Wonderful. So we have Rihanna, we have Zaire, and of course everyone who has lived in the tropical region, who has lived in the Caribbean region, knows that commencing in June, we observe the hurricane season. This is of course the season when it's most likely for us to see instances of hurricanes. So there are no other storms like hurricanes on Earth. Each year, on average, 10 tropical storms, of which 6 become hurricanes, develop over the Atlantic Ocean, Caribbean Sea, or Gulf of Mexico, and those are the ones that affect us, listeners and viewers. Many of these storms remain over the ocean. However, on average, 5 hurricanes strike the United States coastline every 3 years. Timely warnings have greatly diminished hurricane fatalities in the Caribbean. In spite of this, property damage continues to mount. There is little we can do about the hurricanes themselves. However, we can prepare for hurricanes and alert people when a hurricane threatens. And throughout the disaster ambassadors, throughout the past few months, from January to now, we've seen several of your colleague students, other students from various schools. They've come to share with us about different disasters and, of course, the importance of being prepared. And you are here today to tell us a bit about hurricanes. So before you can tell us, and before we can get too much into it, Brianna, tell the people out there, what is a hurricane?
A hurricane is a huge rotating storm with strong winds at speeds of 75 miles per hour, and above that forms over warm water in tropical areas.
Oh my gosh, warm waters. Has anybody felt the heat recently?
Yes.
I know you all are feeling it, right? Yes. So can you imagine how warm the waters are over the last few weeks? Yes. And so warm waters are a part of the environment that makes it conducive for a hurricane, and we know we've had that. So that's something that we have to pay close attention to. Zaire, we've talked about what is a hurricane, but some people may not know that there are other names for a hurricane. What are some of those names?
Hurricanes have different names according to their locations. In the Indian Ocean, hurricanes are given the name cyclones. In Southeast Asia, they are called typhoons.
Rihanna, any other names?
Also, in Australia, hurricanes are called willy willies.
They call what?
Willy willies.
Interesting.
And in North America and the Caribbean, they are called hurricanes.
All right. So I guess we are. Which region do we fall in?
The Caribbean.
All right. So we're in the Caribbean, so we know them as hurricanes. I've never heard about willy willies till a few minutes ago. I don't know. I guess because I don't live in Australia. But of course, for our ambassadors, they are helping to spread awareness, and that includes general information, listeners and viewers. Zaire, what is the hurricane season?
Hurricane in the Atlantic hurricane season starts from the beginning of June till the end of November. Mid-September is considered the peak of the hurricane season. The reason I say Atlantic hurricane season is because the South Pacific cyclone season lasts from January until the end of April. The Eastern Pacific hurricane season starts from mid-May until mid-October. And the Western Pacific cyclone season is between May and October too.
Well, you all are just educating me today, and listeners and viewers, I hope that you're being educated just as much by our ambassadors, because I thought that everybody's hurricane season was just like ours. But as you can tell, it depends on where you live, and so very important information. If any of us has to go to college in any of these other areas, know that it might shift a bit. So you're already being prepared for that, for some of those scholarships that we talked about. If you have to go to any of these regions, you're on the ball already, knowing that you have to be prepared. Thank you, ambassadors. Rihanna, tell the listeners and viewers how hurricanes are named.
In international committee, organism organized by the World Meteorological Association chooses the name. There are 21 names on the list at all times, beginning with the letter A and going down the alphabet, but skipping letters Q, U, X, Y, and Z. The list of names are recycled every 6 years, and if there is a very active hurricane season, there are supplemental list of names to draw from.
So Zaire, I think they've done us an injustice, because our names begin with Z, and we don't make it on the list. We have to do the petition, Zaire. But interesting fact, the letters Q, U, X, Y, and Z are not on the hurricane list. So they eliminated those 5. And of course, how many letters are there in the alphabet?
26.
26. So they took 5 out. So we have 21 potential names at any time. If they go over and they run out of names because there's so many named storms, then they have, as Brianna said, a supplemental list. That's like a backup list for them to run over to. Okay? Zaire, how are hurricane names retired? Oh, people retire. Didn't know hurricane names can retire too. How are they retired?
Some names are retired or removed from the list if those storms are particularly devastating or cause deaths.
Okay, so let me think. In my lifetime, there was Hurricane Hugo, and so I don't think that they'll ever have another Hugo. It must have been retired. Back when I was younger, younger than you all. So I'm not too old. In 1989, there was a storm called Hurricane Hugo, and it pretty much devastated many of the Caribbean islands. And so we know that Hugo might not appear on the list again. Also, have you all ever heard of Hurricane Katrina?
Yes.
Yes. It did significant damage, especially in New Orleans in the United States, in Louisiana. And so Hurricane Katrina, I don't think we'll hear the name or see the name Katrina on the list based on what Zaire said, because it did significant damage. So I'm guessing it must have been retired. Never thought about it, but that just makes sense, right? There are various phases of a hurricane, though, and it's important for our listeners and viewers to know those various phases. So Brianna, tell them the phases of a hurricane.
There are 4 phases of a hurricane: tropical disturbance, tropical depression, tropical storm, and hurricane. However,
Dissipation
dissipation is also considered as a phase sometimes.
All right, so we have the tropical disturbance, the tropical depression, tropical storm, and hurricane, with dissipation meaning it dissolves, goes away, right? Also being a phase, because if it no longer exists, it dissipates, and so some persons consider that a phase. That's interesting as well. This past week, who was paying attention to the weather update? What was going on this week?
It was a heat.
We had a heat wave.
Yes.
We also had something else happening out in the ocean. We'll think about it and we'll come right back to it as we go through. We'll talk about it some more as we go through, okay? So let's explore, Zaire, each of those things that Brianna just talked about. She talked about the disturbance, the depression, the tropical storm, the hurricane. Let's explore for people who may not understand or may be kind of new to this.
Tropical disturbance is an organized area of thunderstorm that lasts for at least 24 hours or more and is accompanied by heavy rains and gusty winds. It has little chances to cause major damage.
Brianna, what about depression?
Tropical depression is an organized area of tropical low pressure in which sustained winds are between 23 to 38 miles per hour. However, at this stage, it doesn't have the power to move on to the next step. And it will still lack the true form.
Okay, so it's not really formed properly yet.
No.
Yeah, but it still has a little bit of wind and some rain there. Zaire, what about the tropical storm?
Tropical storm is a tropical cyclone with maximum winds of 39 to 73 miles per hour and accompanied by thunderstorms. Tropical storms can still result in heavy rains that can cause severe flooding wherever they make landfall.
All right. So this past week, as I said, we had a bit of some tropical disturbances, right? And I think we got to tropical storm. Has anybody heard about tropical storm, Brett?
No.
You missed that? Oh my. So I think you heard about it. I think you knew about it because we were all trying to prepare. In fact, persons were worried that all of the events during the course of this weekend would have to be cancelled because of the winds and rain and potential problems with the tropical storm, right? So that's what we were looking at during the course of this week. And it is a reality. It's going to happen. Well, the fewer times it happens, the better it is for us. But the reality is that we definitely have to pay attention, especially when it gets from disturbance, listeners and viewers, to depression, up to tropical storm, because what comes after the tropical storm?
Hurricane. Hurricane is when wind speeds reach 74 miles per hour and over. The system is now mature and the eye is well defined. The atmospheric conditions are right. It can strengthen.
All right. So, of course, we've gone through disturbance, depression, tropical storm, which we see quite often, and, of course, the hurricane. But remember, Brianna and Zaire, we talked about another possibility. So we covered those major ones that are the usual phases, but there's another possibility. Zaire, tell us about that one.
Dissipation is when hurricanes turn to be less and less organized as wind speed drops dramatically and it stops gathering power. Once hurricanes make landfall, they stop gathering power because they no longer have warm water to depend on to power themselves.
Nice. So that's my favorite part of the hurricane. That's my favorite phase because it means it's no longer a major threat to us, right? All right, listeners and viewers, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we'll finish talking a bit our awareness about hurricanes, and then of course we'll meet our guest caller for today. We'll take a short break and we'll be right back.
When VON vibrates, the whole Caribbean must shake.
8:60 a.m. The Powerhouse.
It's time, come on, rise and shine. You know, I know we're gonna have a great time. And now we're past it quickly, you don't wanna miss it. So turn up the radio, it's you on the go. You on the go. Whoa, let's start the show. Oh, you on the go. Whoa, let's start the show. Whoa, let's go. I will learn new things. I will be creative. Grab the gators, let's gather around, and adventure is always waiting. The storytelling news for us, and we always know what's happening. We act, we play, we dance, we sing from 9 to 10 on Saturday morning. Youth on the go. Whoa, let's start the show. Oh, youth on the go. Whoa, let's start the show. Whoa, let's go.
TDC Financial Services, we're here for you to help you make your dreams come true. Whether your needs are big or small, we'll support you with them all. TDC Financial Services, we are strong. TDC Financial Services, this is where you belong.
TDC Financial Services, where money is made easy.
Welcome back to Youth on the Go here on Vaughn Radio. I am Zahnela Claxton from the Department of Education, and we are here. We've shared some updates and information with you, but we have some superstars in the studio. They are our literal superstars from the home of the stars, the Ivor Walters Primary School, Brianna and Zaire, and they are also our hurricane awareness ambassadors, and of course our representatives this week. And we're talking a bit about hurricanes. Just before the break, we talked about the different phases. Now, some persons might be wondering, what instrument is used to measure a hurricane?
The Saffari-Simpson Hurricane Wind Scale is the instrument used to measure the hurricane category, or a hurricane's maximum sustained wind speed.
All right. And Zaire, what are the categories of a hurricane?
Category 1 is known as a minimal hurricane with wind speed 74 to 95 miles per hour. Category 2 is termed as a moderate hurricane with winds of 96 to 110 miles per hour. Category 3 is known as an extensive hurricane with wind speed of 111 to 130 miles per hour.
Category 4 is considered as an extreme hurricane with winds of 131 to 155 miles per hour. Category 5 is the most dangerous, and it is called a catastrophic hurricane with wind speed greater than 155 miles per hour.
All right, so remember I told you all about some of the hurricanes which occurred in my lifetime, which I'm very young, by the way. Okay, so it wasn't too long ago. They're looking at me, listeners, wondering really. But one of those hurricanes, Hurricane Hugo, which affected us here, was actually a Category 5 hurricane and caused tremendous damage. I can also recall, as I said, Katrina that we talked about was one of those catastrophic hurricanes. And of course, if we think about it, remember Zaire talked about retiring hurricane names. So those who are retired, or with the names that are retired, are usually the catastrophic ones or the stronger ones, right? Let me see if I can remember any more. Irma was one. Maria also happened within my lifetime, 2017. Were you born yet in 2017?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Okay, so but it was wonderful that you were born, but I don't think you would remember that. How old were you? What year were you born?
2011.
Oh yeah, you were pretty old. Well, old enough to remember. And then so we had a few more in the region, but those are some of the hurricanes which took place. Now, what do we do before a hurricane? Because we have to, our job is to prepare everybody out there for this season, right, Zaire? So tell them, what do we do before? You start, Zaire, and Brianna, you can pick up.
Before a hurricane, build an emergency kit. Make a family communication plan. Keep trees and shrubbery trimmed.
Remove any
Debris?
or loose items in your yard. Install permanent hurricane shutters if possible. Bring indoor items like potted plants, patio furniture, decoration, and garbage cans inside. They can fly with strong winds.
And I've seen that too. Everything just flies away into the air. Okay? What should we do during a hurricane?
Don't open the refrigerator or freezer in case you lose power. You want the cold air to stay in. Stay away from windows and glass doors. They could break and hurt you. Don't go outside when the rain or wind stop. This is the eye of the storm, or a short rest. The rain and wind will start again. Listen to safety officials for important instructions.
If you are a child, do not go outside without an adult. Don't go near any wires that are loose or dangling. They could electrocute you. Be alert for the smell of gas. Do not drink from the faucet unless safety officials say so. Text. Don't talk, as you may block the phone lines for emergency workers.
All right. So there are some words. Thank you for the tips. There are some words to know, Zaire and Brianna, for all of our listeners and viewers to know. So we'll share the words, we'll keep going, and we'll share all the words, and of course we'll let everyone know what those mean. So we'll start with Zaire, and then we'll go back and forth sharing the words.
I is the center of the storm and the time when winds and rain die down, but it will start up again very quickly.
Tropical refers to an area or region that is closer to the equator.
Storm surge refers to heavy winds caused by high wind and a lot of rain. These can be dangerous.
Evacuate. Leaving and declared unsafe by officials. Always follow instructions to evacuate your home or neighborhood, and if needed, to go to someplace safer.
Hurricane. What a hurricane? What is the issue when a hurricane are possible within your area? It is issued 48 hours before it anticipates tropical storm force winds.
Hurricane warnings. It indicates that hurricane conditions are expected somewhere within a specific area and is issued 36 hours in advance of important anticipation. Onset of tropical storm force winds to allow for important preparation.
Okay, so let's talk about tracking a storm. Okay, so of course you guys are not perhaps the biggest on news items. When it comes to hurricane season, you have to follow the news. All right, and you have to make sure you know you're looking, and you will see the projected path, and it shows like a visual. So it's usually like a mouth opening, and it shows you which islands can be eaten up or covered by the storm and storm the bands around the storm, and they keep moving. So as it moves, each time during the course of the day, you'll see it moving up towards whichever islands or countries. Okay, so that's important for you to follow. Also, the Nevis Disaster Management Department, and of course NEMA in St. Kitts, there are issues of our statements are issued every couple of hours during the day if it gets closer. So we talked about the hurricane watch. When you get to that hurricane watch, which is just about, how many hours did Zaire say? 48 hours? Just about 48 hours before it could possibly affect us, they will issue a hurricane watch. That means start watching. If you haven't been watching before, you should have been, but if you haven't, start watching. And then as it gets closer, 36 hours away, could possibly touch on or hit us, then they'll say warning, which means do everything you can to make sure we're safe. Okay, we're going to have a caller at some point this morning, and when we get that caller in, we'll learn some more about issuing those statements. But have you ever seen, and if you've never seen, I want you when you go home to take a look at it, but the updates for hurricanes, you have the visual part is very important, viewers. The visual part is very important, Zaire and Brianna, because it helps you to see, it makes it real. Can this really affect my island? And they'll show you, because it actually shows each day. So let's say the storm is forecasted to pass by us on Thursday. They'll start showing you probably the week before. They'll say, okay, by next week, this is what is predicted past the next 2 days. And then, of course, hurricanes shift. They go sometimes up a bit, they go sometimes down a bit. In fact, Tropical Storm Brett was projected to pass directly over us, and it shifted down a bit. Many people were happy because they had lots of plans for this weekend, but it shifted down a bit. And in shifting down a bit, it ended up impacting some of the islands lower down, and so we saw like Barbados, because you realize where Barbados falls in the chain, the archipelago, and so some of those islands were affected. But the projected path during the course of the week showed that it should have, if it stayed on that path, it would have affected us by Thursday, Friday. So we might have not been able to have this conversation today if Tropical Storm Brett had come, because maybe we might have had to stay in because of the rains and the winds and all of that. But once again, storms shift. Okay? And lots of people, when they see them coming, they start praying for it to shift. But the sad part is that as long as it does not dissipate, remember what dissipate means? Yeah? Okay, once it doesn't wither away, if it doesn't dissipate, then it has the potential to affect other people. So while we are grateful when it doesn't affect us, we don't want it to have to affect others either. Does that make sense? Yes. All right. Yes. Awesome sauce. So those are just some quick things about the hurricane. So I want us to, all of our listeners, all of our viewers, to pay close attention to the hurricane, the movement of hurricanes and storms. And as soon as you hear, what's the first phase again? Let's go back quickly. Let's check what the first phase is, because that's where the weather report starts. You will hear when you listen to Von Radio at mornings. Every morning on Von Radio you get a weather update. And when you listen to Von Radio, you will hear about that first phase. What's the first phase?
Tropical disturbance.
So you will hear, for example, if Melissa is reading or one of her colleagues are reading, you'll hear them say there's a tropical disturbance. That's when you start listening. Okay, something's going on out there. It's the hurricane season, so we have to start paying attention. And if we keep watching and it keeps getting stronger, what would be the next thing that we're going to hear?
Tropical depression.
And then you're like, okay, pay closer attention. And sometimes in the morning you hear tropical depression, and by the time the next morning or even the evening, you might hear that it is now a tropical storm, and you start thinking, okay, the winds are getting stronger, closer to a hurricane, we have to pay close attention, and you have to have certain things in place. All right, we'll take a short break and we'll be right back.
Sugar City St. Kitts, keep it sweet. Keep listening to Vaughn.
It's time, come on, rise and shine. You know, I know we're gonna have a great time. And now we're past it quickly, you don't wanna miss it. So turn up the radio, it's youth on the go. Youth on the go. Whoa, let's start the show. Oh, youth on the go. Whoa, let's start the show. Whoa, let's go, let's go, let's go. I will learn new things. I will be creative. Grab the gears, let's gather around, and adventure is always waiting. The storytelling means for us, and we always know what's happening. We act, we play, we dance, we sing from 9 to 10 on Saturday morning. Youth on the go. Whoa, let's start the show. Oh, youth on the go. Whoa, let's start the show. Let's go, let's go, let's go.
TDC Financial Services. We're here for you to help you make your dreams come true. Whether your needs are big or small, we'll support you with them all. TDC Financial Services. We are strong. TDC Financial Services. This is where you belong.
TDC Financial Services, where money is made easy.
All right, welcome back to this edition of Youth on the Go here on Vaughan Radio. I'm Zahnela Claxton from the Department of Education. We're here with you on Saturdays to share information, updates, activities, anything that we think can help our students, our young people to grow and to develop. And of course, the last Saturday of each month, we focus on a disaster, of course, for awareness purposes. And this Saturday, we have the stars from the home of the stars, the Ivor Walters Primary School. We have Brianna, we have Zaire, and they're our hurricane ambassadors. We know that hurricane season started, the official hurricane season started on June 1st, and so they're here and they've brought us some very important information. We also have our special guest caller for today on the line, and so we'll allow that person to introduce himself, tell us a bit about what he does and a bit about how his work affects us during the hurricane season.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hello, good morning everyone. Good morning. My name is Kaya Wilkes. I'm actually filling in for Mr. Dixon that should have been doing this program this morning, but I was called at short notice.
All right. Good morning, Kaya. How are you?
I'm doing fine.
All right, wonderful.
Well, I hope the ambassadors are doing well as well.
They're doing very well today, and they're doing an excellent job. But we want to know a little bit about what you do, Kaya, what your role is, and of course what you do. I won't let the cat out of the bag. I want them to hear from you what you do. I won't even tell them where you work because I know that, but I won't tell them. So tell us a bit about what you do, and of course how that impacts us in the hurricane season.
Okay, like I said, my name is Kaya Wilkes, and I'm actually air traffic controller at the Vance WMA Air Traffic Services. I'm also a meteorological officer as well. So I'm cross-trained in both air traffic control and meteorology. Just a short history about myself. Started working at the control tower in the year 2007. And I successfully completed my entry-level meteorological technician course in 2008 at the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology in Barbados. And since that, I've completed as well air traffic control in 2009, and I've been stationed at the control tower ever since for the last 15 and a half years, you would say.
Well, Kaya, I remember you as a student at GSS, so now I feel very old.
Yes.
Don't say yes, Kaya. All right, but I'm very proud, and so I wanted to tell us a bit about the meteorological aspect of it. What are some of the things that you do or some of your colleagues do in the area of meteorology in relation to hurricanes?
Yes, okay, so the Vance WMA Meteorological Services, as well as the St. Kitts Meteorological Services, is responsible for oversight for the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis with regards to weather and its weather-related phenomenon, such as hurricane, tornado. Well, we don't specifically get tornadoes, but anything weather-related would information would be passed through our office, and we would disseminate it to the general public. Any matters pertaining to coastal erosion as well, anything to do with the atmosphere. Everything falls through the meteorological services. So we provide that information to the general public. As you can see, this is the month of June, which is the start of the hurricane season. So the office will be very active in regards to hurricane, tropical storms, depression, tropical waves. As you see, we have two tropical storms in the Atlantic at the moment, namely Tropical Storm Brett and recently formed Tropical Storm Cindy.
Is that Cindy?
Cindy
Okay.
is the second tropical storm. So of course the nation will be on high alert. I know last week we were very pensive with regards to Brett, leading up to this weekend. You know, it's an active weekend with the music festival and so on. As you can see, Brett did what he had to do. He remained well south of St. Kitts and Nevis. So we are basically clear of Brett, and he's actually dissipating at the moment.
Oh, they learned that word this morning. The listening audience learned the term dissipation and what it meant, and I told them that's my favorite part of my favorite part of a hurricane.
Of course. There's no sweat.
No.
When there's dissipation. So yeah, that is dissipating at the moment. So that would basically be an area of low pressure in the next few hours, and then it would just die out. But as you can see outside, it's quite cloudy, so we are still getting some remnants of Brett. The winds started to die down as well, because the winds were quite high in the last couple of days. So we are in the clear with that. In with respect to tropical storm Brett.
Okay, what about Cindy? Any information on Cindy and any advice?
Said to stay well north of St. Kitts and Nevis as well, and the current track that it's on, it's forecasted to pass well north of St. Kitts and Nevis, well towards the northeast of St. Kitts and Nevis. However, we would likely get some impact from the outer bands of tropical storm Cindy, like wind. The sea conditions will deteriorate as well, especially towards the north and northwestern side of the island. So that's expected in the coming days. But Cindy is not forecasted to pass us until around late Sunday into Monday. So we would enjoy the nice sunny weather leading to those days.
Wonderful. You talked about outer bands. We didn't touch on outer bands much as yet, so if you could tell us a bit about what that means for any storm, not just Cindy, but what it means when the meteorologist says the outer bands.
Yeah, basically the outer bands are what we'll call the outer rain bands, which you would often find in a hurricane or tropical storm. It's just made up of dense thunderstorms, which is, you know, one of the characteristics of a hurricane. You get thunder and lightning, and it normally range from a few miles to tens of miles, whether it's 50 miles wide or 300 miles long. It's just the outer edge of the storm, where you would find some area of rainfall and high winds and that sort of thing.
All right, thank you so much for that. Ambassadors, do we have any questions from our caller, Mr. Kaya Wilkes? Yes. Okay, so Brianna has a question for you.
What was the name of a hurricane you faced when you were younger?
I didn't get that. What was the name of a
hurricane you faced when you were younger?
The only one I could really remember, because yes, I'm very young like you.
No, you're very young like me.
The only one I can remember was Hurricane Lenny, and that was an unusual hurricane because it came from west to east. Normally the hurricanes come from east to west because they're being blown over by the northeastern trade wind. That was the only hurricane I can remember in my short lifetime, but I remember a few tropical storms like Omar. Omar did quite significant damage to the Four Seasons. I think it was in the year 2008. For a tropical storm, that one was quite destructive. I could remember that one quite clearly. And I think it was last year or the year before we had Fiona, which did minimal damage. Nevertheless, we had quite a bit of rainfall from that storm. I tuned in a little bit earlier to the program, and you were speaking about the 26 names that are given to the hurricane. Sorry, the 21 names that are given to hurricane, because the last 5 letters of the alphabet, they don't use the name. And when those names actually run out, you mentioned they go into a supplementary list. The supplementary list is actually the Greek alphabet. So they would start with Alpha, so you would have Hurricane Alpha, Hurricane Beta, Hurricane Gamma, and that sort of thing. So that would be the supplementary list that you speak of.
Have we ever gotten into the supplementary list in your lifetime?
Yeah, we've gotten into the list. I think it was 2 years ago. I think we reached as far as Beta.
Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. So, good information. Zaya, any questions? We are just about wrapping up, but I want to make sure that we get all the questions on the table. Any questions, Zaya?
Yes.
Go ahead.
How does a storm affect the airport?
Well, the storm affects the airport in a very, very, very significant way, because, as you know, if there's an impending storm approaching, the planes, the aircraft wouldn't fly, because, there's a high risk involved, such as the high winds and the rain that could reduce the visibility for pilots. So, anytime there's any significant weather entering the area where the airport is, or the island, where there's a hurricane, a storm, a depression, everyone goes on high alert, because we don't want to have too many cancellations and delays and that kind of thing. And, that would mess up a lot of traveling plans for many persons, and then there's the financial aspect of that. So it's very much a big issue whenever storms affect the airport.
All right. I think that we got some really good information from Mr. Wilkes. Did you all know that there were officers who were trained in meteorology at our airport? Did you know that before?
No.
Wow. So you realize that we're learning things, and that's a career path. If any of you are interested, definitely a very good career path, especially living in a tropical area.
It's a good career path, and it's good to understand how hurricanes work and how they are formed and developed. Can I give them like 10 I know 10 facts about hurricane that I can share with you.
If you can do it in 60 seconds.
Yeah.
10 facts in 60 seconds.
Okay. Well, hurricanes are gigantic tropical storms that produce heavy rainfall and strong winds. They form over warm ocean near the equator. And how they really form is warm air above the Earth's surface rising, causing air from the surrounding areas of the storm to basically be sucked in, and this new air becomes warm and moist, and it rises to begin a continuous cycle that forms clouds. The clouds are then rotated with the spin of the Earth, as the Earth spins on its axis, and this there's enough warm water to feed the storm. Because it starts as a storm, but a wave to a depression to a storm. A hurricane would then form once there's enough warm water to feed the storm. The hurricanes rotate around a circular area called the eye. I think I heard I mention the eye earlier in her presentation. And it's a generally calm area, and there's no clouds around the eye. Within the eye, it's just an area of calm weather.
All right, so we are, of course, just about out of time, Kaya, but we thank you for those facts. They really were useful and helpful, and we thank you for your time and for sharing with us as well. And we look forward to talking to you some more, and for you to update us a bit more in the very near future. We thank Brianna and we thank Zaire as well for coming this morning. So we've had 3 superstars, 2 from the Home of the Stars, and so we look forward to hearing more about our next disaster next month. So thank you so much, Kaya, for joining us this morning, and thank you to all of you. And of course, we look forward to interacting with everyone next week. Have a wonderful week to all of our listeners and of course our viewers.